Yes. earlymorningmob.com, The Golden Show. Like, comment, share, and download. You know the deal by now. Routine. Let's get it. Waiting for Tone and Capo to come through. We got a lot of things to do today, so I got to get it in by myself. I'll get it in by myself. Donation plate.
The golden debate show. Yeah, the golden debate show.
Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
The golden debate show.
The wind's literally talking through the window, so let's get it in.
The number of sunspots is
like, comment, share, and download earlymorningmob.com. Get it.
Solar flares are half. Richard Harrison is the head of space physics at the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory in Oxfordshire. He says the rate that solar activity is falling mirrors a period in the 17th century where sunspots virtually disappeared.
The Monde Minimum, of course, was a period of almost no sunspots at all for decades, and we saw a really dramatic period where there were very cold winters in the Northern Hemisphere. It was a period where you had a kind of a mini ice age. You had a period where the Thames froze in the winters and so on. It was an interesting time.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking
canals
groovy.
froze across northern Europe. Paintings from the 17th century show frost fairs
Mona
taking
Lisa.
place on the Thames.
Get that mac and cheese.
During the
Everybody
Great Frost of
deserves their mac and
1684, the
cheese.
river
The
froze
Great
over
fucking
for
Frost.
2
I think it's
months.
the Great Frost
the ice
right now.
was almost a foot thick.
Hello, everybody.
The Maunder Minimum was named after the astronomer who observed the steep decline in solar activity that coincided with this mini ice age. The Maunder Minimum came at a
Mini
time
ice
when
age,
snow
eh?
cover was longer and more frequent.
Hello,
It
everybody.
wasn't just the Thames that froze over, the Baltic Sea did too. Crop failures and famines were widespread across northern Europe. So does a decline in solar activity mean plunging temperatures for decades to come?
We've been making observations
Polar
of sunspots,
vortex.
which are the most obvious sign of solar activity, from 1609 onwards. So we've got 400 years of observations. The sun does seem to be in a very similar phase as it was in the run-up to the Maunder Minimum. So by that I mean that the activity is dropping off cycle by cycle.
Lucy Green is based at the Mullard Space Science Laboratory in the North Downs.
By that, I mean
she
that
thinks
the
that
sun's
lower
taking a
levels
little
of solar
nap,
activity
little
could
sleep-
affect the
little
climate,
sleep break,
but she's not sure
siesta.
to what extent.
But Josh, yes, you like, comment, share, and download.
Because the
Golden Debate
sun's
Show.
activity controls how much visible light the sun gives out, but also how much
go.
ultraviolet light and X-rays that the sun emits. And they have they create a web of changes up in the
With the Winter Olympic Games just less than 3 weeks away, there are new and specific threats to the global event. Female terrorists called Black Widows may have succeeded in infiltrating Sochi and are
Is
out
this an
for
episode of
vengeance.
Marvel Avengers,
NBC
y'all?
Bay Area's Terry McSweeney is live from near the Golden Gate Bridge with more on the threat and reaction. Terry.
Yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge has been the subject of terror threats and terror alerts over the years because of the international publicity such an attack could bring to a terrorist group. Now imagine if a group could pull off an attack at the Sochi Olympic Games 18 days from now, what kind of publicity that group might get. Well, experts are saying that just such a plot may be well
Get that
underway.
mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
At Sochi Airport these days, travelers are closely watched as Russian security forces search for as many as 4 women, suspected suicide bombers, who may be targeting the Olympics. This is one of them, 22-year-old Rosanna Ibragimova. She's a so-called Black Widow. She got that scar on her cheek during a raid by Russian forces last year that killed her husband. Add to all this the threat from the grave. 2 men in this video released yesterday, claiming they're preparing to carry out last month's suicide attack on Volgograd and warning of attacks on the Olympics. They, like
dare attack
Ibragimova, are
Belgrade.
from Dagestan, a Muslim republic where many hate Vladimir Putin and want independence from Russia. Residents say Russia's reaction to Dagestan terrorist attacks has been harsh and pervasive, sometimes in mosques during prayer.
I have to tell you this. I have to, and I served in the great state of California for 9 years as a new agent. And I went with you to Redding, California. You don't remember, there was more hair here, when we established an office up there for meth. I must tell you this, because it would be wrong for me to tell you. Going down the path to legalization in this country is reckless and irresponsible. I am The department has set up factors, sir. And I get that. I'm talking about the long-term impact of legalization in the United States. It scares us. The treatment people are afraid. The education people are afraid. Law enforcement is worried what is going to happen. In every part of the world where this experiment has been tried, it has failed time and time again. People think that DEA and law enforcement officers around the world are interested in Billy and his bong and his basement. We're not.
Alliteration, y'all.
We never
Billy
have.
Bone basement with the bong.
That's his mother and father's problem.
Boston
That's not the federal government's problem. That's not Jimmy Capper's problem at DEA. That's a mom and dad problem. What I'm interested in, what DEA has always been interested in, is the trafficking groups that want Billy to be puffing on his bong, the groups that are selling dope to our kids because they live off the backs of addiction. That's what they want. And by the way, we've never gone after, and have done that because people thought we're going after small-time traffickers. I've been at DEA for 27 years, never arrested an addict, and I don't have any small-time traffickers that we don't have time for that because we're dealing with things like this on a global scale. There are more dispensaries in Denver than there are Starbucks.
I think you're telling me that federal law ought to be enforced.
What I'm saying, sir, is the idea somehow that people have in our country, to the extent that some legislators do, county elected officials do, that this is somehow good for us as a nation, sir. That this is good for the next generation of Americans coming up is wrong. It's not it is a bad thing.
And as we start a new year, let's start a new tradition, a good tradition, to replace one of our stupid traditions, like the Electoral College.
Demonstrators blocked private shuttle buses operated by Google and Facebook in San Francisco Tuesday. Several tech companies use the shuttles to transport workers to and from their jobs in Silicon Valley. Some 35,000 passenger pickups a day. This seems to be about more than shuttle buses.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is.
The private buses have become symbols of income inequality and the belief that well-paid tech workers are to blame for steeply rising rents.
But we're not going to drop that bad habit without making another
an average or low-income resident of San Francisco.
Hanging on to stupid stuff long after it's relevant, just because it's tradition. We don't need the Electoral College, or the drug war, or the penny. Or farm subsidies, or an amendment in the Constitution about how citizens need rifles in case they have to take over the government.
A blow for Honda today as Consumer Reports says it can no longer recommend the Honda Fit after it placed last on a crash test. The test looks at how well cars hold up when they hit a wall on the driver's side at 40 miles an hour. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety says the structure of the Fit car collapsed around the driver. The steering wheel moved and the driver's head hit the instrument panel. In addition to the Honda Fit, 5 other so-called mini cars rated poor on the crash test. The Fiat 500, the Hyundai Accent, Toyota Prius C, the Nissan Versa, the Mitsubishi Mirage. In Minneapolis, the Chevrolet Spark was the only created a ground to receive an acceptable wind chill warning was issued for most of Minnesota today. Advisories warned of temperatures from 25 to 35 degrees below zero. Many schools across the state canceled classes today. Black ice and snow made driving
Golden Show, GoldenDebateShow, earlymorningmob.com. Like, comment, share, and download till your fingers fall off.
They're good. Temperatures today were up there. Here are some of the records again. 75 in Oakland. It was 74 in Mountain View, and a tied record of 72 in San Jose. Warm spot was Livermore at 75. So temperatures tomorrow are going to be slightly cooler than these numbers.
Generals. On Tuesday, 31 retired American generals sent a letter to President Barack Obama urging him to fulfill his promise to close down the Guantanamo Bay prison complex. The group, which included a former Air Force chief of staff and the head of the military's Middle East Central Command, said that Guantanamo does not serve America's interests. As long as it remains open, Guantanamo will undermine America's security and status as a nation where human rights and the rule of law matter. I couldn't have said it better myself. But the future
got the cowboy music in the back and everything.
Guantanamo is not President Obama's fault. Republicans in Congress, Republicans have blocked every attempt to transfer detainees out of the prison or otherwise close the complex. Study by researchers at the UC San Francisco revealed people with military access to guns have increased what it is, a national embarrassment. I mean, in fact, people with access to guns are 2 times more likely to commit suicide or be killed. That's 100% more likely. Every year, 31,000 deaths between suicides and homicides by guns. 51.8% of suicides are gun-related. 66.5% of homicides in the United States. When Australia, after the 1996 slaughter in Tasmania, and Australia said, okay, that's it, we're horrified by this. They actually showed the pictures of the victims on national television. And John Howard, George W. Bush's good buddy, the conservative prime minister, to the right of the Republican Party prime minister, said, enough. The states, as they decreased the number of guns in the states, Tasmania was the first. They did the biggest gun buyback, and then, it went all across the country. Suicide rates and homicide rates decreased in each one of those states following the gun buyback programs. It was an absolute relationship, and to this day it is held. Should we not say, actually, let me take it a step beyond that.
If you're not going to reduce the volume of guns, make the ammunition expensive so that
the Second Amendment
there's also been a shift in culture.
Archaic.
We weren't exposed to the things we didn't have in the same way that kids are these days.
First. As long as you'll concede that the first is also archaic.
No, I won't. I think the first applies today.
The internet didn't exist when they wrote the First Amendment.
But we still have newspapers. But we don't have slavery.
Like, comment, share, and download. That's all we're asking for. earlymorningmob.com. Go check out something at the store there, though, and purchase
the
it.
Virginia Ratifying Convention, the Virginians were the guys who were demanding that there be a Bill of Rights attached. That was the convention.
If they had guns, had they been allowed to exercise the Second Amendment right, perhaps slavery wouldn't have existed.
Let me explain.
That Michael
in the fashion that
you're fucking dating a vampire.
Didn't want guns.
Gun control laws kept slaves from having arms.
Let me make my point, and I'll give you all the time you want to come back, okay? All right.
Next, an international public service announcement by the United States government.
The Rewards for Justice program is offering a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the arrest or conviction of any individual responsible for the September 11, 2012 Benghazi attacks. The U.S. guarantees that all reports will be investigated and the identity of all informants will be kept confidential. If you have such information, contact the Regional Security Office at the nearest U.S. Embassy and the tip line at www.rewardsforjustice.net or email information to rfj@state.gov.
That was an international public service announcement by the United States government.
Geneva is the biggest in the history of the United Nations. $6.5 billion to meet needs inside Syria and to help the more than 2 million people who have fled the country.
Mr. Bond made the announcement Wednesday after a donors conference in Kuwait, part of a UN effort to raise $6.5 billion this year, the largest ever funding appeal for a single crisis. He said the fighting in Syria has sent the nation back years, even decades.
The people of Syria want peace and hope, yet all they see is death upon death. All they hear is talk after talk. People are dying, families are fleeing, serious fires are spreading.
But money's being made,
they may soon engulf the whole region.
Kuwait pledged $500 million to the effort, while U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry announced $380 million in new aid from the United States.
Some of our support will help Syrians immediately as they cope with one of the cruelest winters on record. And with our contributions today, we're providing specifically fuel for heating and cooking. We're providing thermal blankets and other critical winter supplies for tens of thousands of people.
earlymorningmob.com.
In addition, we're also investing in meeting the longer-term needs of Syria's neighbors.
And you are in the position of having to say, that sounds too good to be true. I wish I knew it. It seems to me like a reasonable step to follow that up with would have been to find out get somebody on who can address the other side of that question.
I could turn this around on you and say it would be so easy for you to research all those different things on that list that you accuse me of, many of them which are not true at all, never have been true, but yet you printed them.
I did.
So why did you do that if you're a man of science? Yeah, you're saying
you just gotta have open minds, not fucking empty ones. So
the salient point is that information is being given that could potentially kill people.
Right, but you're saying that he's giving this information as a medical expert, which he is, under the guise of selling a product, which is erroneous.
Okay, but I've also said that I don't know whether it's his store or someone else's store, but it's a product that he's talking about. That's the salient point.
Brian, you and I agree on more than we disagree. I'm sorry if I was rough with you about certain things, like defending my friend Mark, but if I didn't, he would have fucking killed me next time I saw him.
I just want to review the tweets and how many people have called me an asshole over the last few
you can't. Listen, if anybody's calling Brian an asshole, he's not an asshole. And I think that your ideas, essentially, the hard stance that you take is because you know there's so much bullshit out there, and I think it's a good stance. I think it's the right stance most of the time.
The old saying,
like I said, it's never on one side, and no one's ever mastered or fucking perfected anything.
You know, whether this table's real or whether it's an illusion, obviously that's silly, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
I don't know. I had Dr.
This is what Fukushima
north coast.
Yes,
it's around, 150 miles up the coast.
Yes.
And how toxic or radioactive is it here?
Compared to the rest of Japan, Tokyo got a certain amount of fallout. Relatively speaking, I think the levels, what they are today, are maybe 50% higher than what they were before the disaster. But compared to locations in Fukushima, it's actually relatively low. So in terms of
SafeCast volunteers use Geiger counters and open source software to measure the radiation, then post the data online for anyone to access. Their effort comes as Japan recently passed a new secrecy bill. Well, for more, we're joined by Peter Franken, who is co-founder of SafeCast. Welcome to Democracy Now! Explain what it is you've done. You're turning smartphones into Geiger counters?
Not
fake,
really.
Fake, false, fake, false.
Judo, karate, aikido. 世界に2億の
Get that mac and cheese.
Let's do my serious radio voice. Golden Debate Show and the Golden Show. earlymorningmob.com. Go there until your fucking eyeballs fall out of your head. Chicago 25-6 to vote. Golden Debate Show. Song of the day.
Whatever it is,
down there's one of those calico. There's other guys. Searching for something to say.
Well, the problems are getting bigger. They say that it's the whole system that's broke with financial.
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody. I'm trying to wake you up. I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody. I'm trying to wake you up.
Staring blindly into space.
I'm just trying to wake you up and
get that mac and cheese.
Getting up just past my face.
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody. I'm trying to wake you up.
Wondering how much I can take. Should I try to do some more? 25 or 6 to 4.
Go to earlymorningmob.com. There you can get some archives of both shows. You can get the player from both shows. You can get the RS feed from both shows, blogs, pictures. You can get everything we do at earlymorningmob.com, which is beats, rhymes, songs. Just go there and check it out and support it.
I'm just trying to wake you up, everybody.
You made it better. I'd say revamp that shit. But I ain't saying no word that says vamping it.
Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
There's other guys, what they look like, I don't know. This don't make no sense to everybody. I'm just trying to wake you up. I'm trying to wake you up.
Wednesday, which is actually a surprise to some aliens who believe chaos will ensue. But as I just heard from the Marijuana Policy Project points out, quote, I call it the Y2K of
Golden Debate Show and the Golden Show with the earlymorningmob.com. I almost did it a whole show without fucking up, so I had to make up for it. earlymorningmob.com. Let's get it in. Got another Golden Debate Show and then a Golden Show, which is our music show right after that. 3 shows, one day, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I'm done being happy. On to the next show. We're almost out of here. So for
are you surprised at all by their behavior? Or does it make
Get
sense?
that mac and cheese. Deserves their mac and cheese.
There's other guys, what they look like, I don't know. This don't make no sense to everybody.
Reports.com already know
the horror of September 11th. Across the political spectrum, Americans recognize that we had to adapt to a world in which a bomb could be built in a basement, and our electric grid could be shut down by operators by ocean wind. We were shaken by the signs leading up to the attacks. How the hijackers had made phone calls to known extremists and traveled to suspicious places. So we demanded that our intelligence community improve its capabilities and that law enforcement change practices to focus more on preventing attacks before they happen than prosecuting terrorists after an attack.
Clean food in the northern part of this planet, low radiation, organic, chemical-free food. And so, because I am an environmental physician as well as a psychiatrist, I talked to the other trustees of the foundation, the Natural Solutions Foundation. Solutions are a middle name.
What is the U.S. position? Does the U.S. respect and recognize that right to enrich?
No, there is no right to enrich. We do not recognize a right to enrich.
Bitch, you ain't got the right to enrich, bitch.
In the NPT and the Non-Proliferation Treaty, it's very, very clear.
Prostitution is just like any other job. Poor people
so here's what happened.
Free.
He was on a hill, psychotic, in a hospital, released on a bunch of meds, Prozac one of them, was allowed to return to school, was mandated to follow up, nobody checked. So here's the deal. These schools should be held accountable. Like, hey, you have a chronic, severe psychiatric illness which impairs you and endangers your safety and the communities.
Congressman, the evidence that the World Trade Center Building 7 was brought down with explosives on 9/11 is real and proven. and more people are waking up to it every day.
Cheese.
How much more trust
deserves their mac and cheese.
This is Democracy Now! That does it for the broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Renee Feltzer, Mate Nerman, Jake, Steve Martinez, Samakov, Hani Masood, Ravi Karen, Dina Gester, Amy Littlefield, Cassandra Lazare, Fernando Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, engineer. Special thanks to Becca Staley, Julie Crosby, Eve Grant, Jessica Lee, John Wally, to our camera crew, John Randolph, Karen Krug Meadows, Carlota Jesus. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Yesterday we learned that in 2013 our businesses created 2.2 million new jobs, including 87,000 last month.
Records, not an
our unemployment rate is the lowest it has been since October 2008. And across our broader economy, there's signs of progress. Our manufacturing and housing sectors are rebounding.
And this is
our energy,
about
technology,
the
and auto
ability of people to
thanks in part
challenge
to the Affordable Care Act.
The surveillance. Check this out. This is written by Judge William Pauley. Regarding the statutory
Golden Debate Show, like, comment, share, down.
That's about the Section authorizing collection of data related to its telephone numbers, but for the unauthorized disclosures by Edward Snowden. Congress did not intend that targets of Section 215 orders would ever learn of them. And the statutory scheme also makes clear that Congress intended to preclude suits by targets even if they discovered Section 215 orders implicating them. It can if they discovered Section 215 orders implicating them. It cannot possibly be that law-breaking conduct by a government contractor that reveals state secrets, including the means and methods of intelligence gathering, could frustrate Congress's intent. To hold otherwise would spawn mischief. Recipients of orders would be subject to sexual
mac and cheese. Deserves their mac and cheese.
What they look like, I don't know.
Tones in the building, Kappa's on his way. We got a lot of work to do, like I said, so let's get it in. earlymorningmob.com, GoldenDebateShow.
Disrespect and watch your body gauge and pump the shot and gauge and hit your shorty body training.
The only way you can really get at them, short of invading that country, which we did and discovered that isn't so hot. So I would say they are a blessing, but they bring all sorts of ethical and moral.
Now to an unwelcome surprise for millions of Americans this new year. Health insurance premiums that are causing sticker shock, double-digit increases in some places.
I have two words for you: predator's law.
Flu season came sooner than expected and already obviously significantly more severe.
Mac and cheese. This is a time when I feel let's move out the window for a moment and get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
And Clint, of course, the reason you and I have spent so much time on television over the years is we've turned to you to explain awful mass crimes in this country. The question is, we're just talking about things like body armor and the get-up these young gunmen have used in these crimes we've come to know.
Some people say
the obvious threat of untold numbers of citizens. This radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country.
Hey, this is just King Midas, and I just walked into the Golden Debate Show. It's King Midas certified. Watch your toes. I don't want to step on no toes and run them over around here. Call me the Golden Closer. Mariano, well, he retired, dude. We don't need you to retire, but Alfonso, word. Get you loading up on this next Golden Debate Show. We're going to bump out the Golden Show. It's telling the people we have a lot to work on. We're working on the website and whatnot.
Yeah, man, we stay busy, staying golden over here on this side of town.
Yes, sir.
Mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
But we thought we would share them with you anyway. On today's video, we're going to share 13 of
Get that mac and cheese. Everybody deserves their mac and cheese.
Corpus Christi, Texas, it's illegal to raise an alligator in your home. Also in Texas, it's illegal for anyone to have a pair of pliers.
Get that mac and cheese. Deserves their mac and cheese.
They're trying to wake us up. Guys, what they look like, I don't know.
Look at a moose.